Thank you to all my channel members, including my fan appreciation level members and my contributor level members, for helping support the YouTube channel. Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have my book review of the book Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Ring of Fire by David Mack. This is the fourth book in the Strange New Worlds book series, but it is a standalone, like all the books have been standalone up until this point. I am, of course, a big fan of David Mack. I've read a lot of his books, not all of them quite yet for Star Trek, but I've read a lot of them, and he has varying degrees of quality. He's written some all-time best Star Trek books. He's written some good ones, some great ones. He's written some not-so-good ones, some really bad ones. So he's written all over the place, and so I was very hopeful to see what would happen here. And the Strange New Worlds series has been pretty entertaining overall. The books, I should say, not the TV shows. They started out with one of my favorite media tie-in fiction writers of all time, John Jackson Miller, with his novel, The High Country, which was a superb book. It is very big and packed, is how I would describe this book. Big and packed. And actually, there's two meanings for that, which I'll explain the second meaning in a moment. And then we had the super short, super quick Asylum, which was fine. I liked it a little. It was fine. And then we've had earlier this year, Toward the Night, by James Swallow. So this one was pretty good. And so we now have Ring of Fire, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of reveal it at the beginning. This is my favorite of the four, and this is, in my opinion, the best book that I've read of his since the Ceremony of Losses, which came out in, I think, like 2012. So in my opinion, this is David Mack's best book in like a decade. I think he did a superb job with this. It's actually not even very David Macky. David Mack is known for the big, bombastic. He's doing a lot of big stuff in his books, and he tries to accomplish quite a bit in them, usually. And this book is there's a lot going on, but it is much more a traditional Trek story. The basic premise is there's this station near a wormhole, and the station is slowly getting sucked in because it's been sabotaged. And so the Enterprise is sent to go try to save the station, but the Enterprise can only do so much because it runs the risk that it could get sucked into the wormhole as well. And so when the Enterprise is on the way to go to the station, they find out someone's been murdered. And so it's not just a saboteur, it is a murderer who is messing with the station. And there's also some weird science stuff happening as well. And this book is so interesting because it blends like a murder mystery, like a thriller type story, and also classic Trek science crazy stuff, with also the character dynamics and the interpersonal relationship stuff that a great Star Trek story has. And it meshes them all together in the perfect blend. It is very rare for David Mack to get this kind of a blend. I'm going to take a second and pause from my praises of the book to give like one of the few criticisms I have, which is that Chapter 2 is just basically three different, or maybe even before, but it's like three different character, drama, relationship stuff. And as soon as that Chapter 2 happened, I rolled my eyes and thought, oh my goodness, is he gonna make this that type of a book? Because he has made that type of book with Firewall, and I was lukewarm on Firewall. It had a few cool moments, but wasn't really for me. And that was his first hardcover. So I was like, man, is he doing the same stuff he did there? And so I was really nervous. But after Chapter 2, it was a phenomenal, traditional Star Trek book. And so just note, if you feel like I did after Chapter 2, it gets so much better past that. So, going back to the main premise of the book, one thing I actually really liked about this is that despite all the science stuff, they had the wormhole and accretion disk, which I had to kind of look up a little, but I was actually following the sciencey stuff. And the super sciencey Star Trek books, usually, even in the shows too, they just go over my head. I'm not really understanding what's going on with those. But in this book, I actually understood what the science stuff was meant to be, and therefore I was really following along and really enjoying the science part of the story. And usually I'm like more into the political Star Trek stories. I like the stuff with the Klingons. I like the Romulans. I like, seeing the space battles. I don't really traditionally like you saying that there's going to be a Star Trek book about a wormhole, a black hole, not wormhole, black hole. I keep saying wormhole. It's a black hole. And like that in space, that shouldn't be as exciting, but it was here and it worked really well for me, surprisingly. Uh, so this book has part mystery, murder mystery, which in some ways this was like kind of predictable, but at the same time it kind of wasn't. Then we also had kind of the thriller aspect in the book, and I think the thriller aspect was what made it great. And then also this book does is there is the Pike is hesitant to go help out this station because in the past he has actually been to this black hole before because he chased a ship near it and that ship destroyed itself on accident trying to escape his ship years in the past. And so he is so hesitant to go near this black hole, and the themes that are explored and the character drama that is explored with him trying to figure out how to reconcile the trauma that he's dealing with the fact that he's potentially responsible for all those lives lost and now he's back there is so fascinating, is so interesting to read. And I thought that David Mack nailed it, and the way he connects that story to the present time was brilliant, and I loved it. At one point, I caught it. I knew exactly where it was going. That was about in the middle of the book. In the middle of the book, I was like, I can predict where this is heading. But by the end of the book, I was genuinely surprised. So I thought that this was so well handled. And, this book, on the cover, you have Pike in the center, and Pike never leaves the Enterprise in this book, and instead, you're following the away crew trying to communicate with Pike, and I think that makes a really fascinating story. And you have on here, you have Una, you have Spock, you have Nurse Chapel, and you have Noonien Singh. I forgot her first name, but you have Lieutenant Noonien Singh. I personally, if I was the one doing the cover stuff, I would have put Ortegas where Nurse Chapel is, because I think Ortegas has a bigger role in the book than Nurse Chapel does, and I think that her role is more impactful to the reader. Yet, I understand why they put Nurse Chapel on the cover. But all of them, they all have kind of major POVs that you're following in the book. Una Chin Riley is interesting in this book because she is present for a lot of the book, but she's actually not. Like, you're not following like a character arc from her. She's like a device for the plot for a lot of the book, and but I still thought her stuff was interesting as well. I do want to take a moment to address a nitpick, which I believe this is me getting super picky about this, but this is just a personal opinion thing, is that every single book in this series has had a different font size. There are 4 books in the Strange New Worlds arc of series now, and all 4 books have a different font size. I went through and compared them all. The High Country, which is 367 pages, has minuscule size font. And then this book, the 4th book in the series, has very small font. Then we have Toward the Night, which is pretty standard font, but which is larger than the other 2. And then you have Asylum, which has huge font. And I believe that what Simon & Schuster's Gallery Press is trying to do, I think what Gallery's trying to do, is make it so that the books line up size-wise when you have them on the shelves. So I think they're trying to say, all right, if you put the books, line them up in order, and you look at their spines, they're all the same size. They're all relatively in the 300-page length. And I think that's to try to reassure audiences that you're getting about a 300-page novel. I understand that from that perspective, but I feel like it is, when you open a book and you realize such huge font discrepancies, it's like I would personally rather them be different size spines, different size widths, and I would prefer that the books all be the same font, so that when I open a book, I know approximately how long it's going to be. Because if you go between the first 2, it's going to be whiplash font size wise. So anyway, that's me being super picky. Again, I don't have a lot to criticize this book about. There's a few decisions that he makes with the story that are a bit curious. Unfortunately, they're both relating to the mystery specifically, so they're kind of spoilers, so I can't really get into them now. But what I will say is that there are a few curious moments that I think I probably would have done differently. I'm not saying they're bad, I just think that they're odd. Yet, as a whole, again, I can't overemphasize this enough. This is the first David Mack book in a long time that I feel like, man, he nailed it. Man, I don't have reservations about saying that he nailed it. And, after so many books, even his third book, which was huge in the, in the Coda trilogy, he had the finale, and he was like the planner for that Coda trilogy. Even though that was a huge bombastic book, there was so much in it. Even though I loved the book, that let me down in several ways. I don't feel let down by this book. I have decisions that I think could be handled differently, but I wasn't let down. So this book just works so well. I will also mention that Scotty has a minor plot thread with Commander Pelia, and oh, it was hilarious. Oh my goodness, Scotty, his storyline was hilarious and delightful. And what he does at the end, I think is illegal, but it's funny. It's really funny what he does with Commander Pelia. So I liked that story. It added some much needed levity to a very serious story. There are some really cool sequences where I visualized how they would have done this on the TV show, and it just visualized so well. And I think that David Mack, after so many years of writing Star Trek, knows how to write the starship scenes and knows how to write the action scenes and stuff happening scenes, and I loved all that. And of course, he did the thing where you have the storyline of the starship doing this flying around stuff, but there's also a saboteur going on, and there's also the ship one of the ships coming apart from the inside, and they're trying to fix it, and you're spinning between the three main plot lines as that's happening. It's a very George Lucas thing to do. George Lucas with, Return of the Jedi and with Phantom Menace and Revenge of the Sith. With those movies, he constantly has a bunch of different plot lines, and you're jumping between them, and the tension just keeps ratcheting up between them. And so even though you leave one, you're like, oh no, I can't leave that one, but this one's also so good, and I'm so excited to see this scene. That's how this book gets near the climax, and I thought it was brilliantly handled. There is some moral qualms in the book about dealing with some characters, like how they would handle something, kind of the needs of the many type thing, but it's in a unique way this time. And the way that Pike has to deal with that and Ortegas has to deal with that, I thought was really clever. I will also say, this is I'll say a personal preference thing, that it is refreshing to see a Star Trek book, especially a David Mack Star Trek book, that is doesn't have any, I'll say, untraditional relationships, because that was very much, unfortunately, a big deal in Firewall. He has some stuff that I would prefer him not include in terms of the way characters have relationships, particularly with Spock and Noonien Singh. But despite that, I would still say that, and again, that's where the Chapter 2 stuff comes in, and also one of the last chapters in the book. But despite that, I would say at least I do appreciate that there are more traditional relationships present here. So yes, I did enjoy Ring of Fire quite a bit. I will be talking with David Mack. The episode may already be out. I don't know when it comes out, but I will be talking with David Mack over at Literary Treks, which is the podcast for Star Trek where we talk about the Star Trek books. So if you want to hear that conversation, go listen over there. I don't put that on YouTube, but it's a podcast. So I will be talking to David Mack, and I loved this book. So far, I mean, there's only been I think 2 or 3. I think there's only been the 2 Star Trek releases this year. So this is definitely my favorite of the year. We still have one more coming out this year in November or December. I think it's December. We have the new Greg Cox book, and we'll see if that's the favorite. But so far, this is my favorite. So if you've read Ring of Fire by David Mack from the Star Trek Strange New Worlds line, what did you think of it? And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.